Love you, brother. You're the best. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are awesome. I feel so blessed to be here with you guys. I feel so grateful. Yesterday, somebody stopped me in the hall and they said, "Is it really hard having everybody come up to you and want to take a picture with you?" And I said, honestly, that only happens here. Because for some reason, Pace has got you guys convinced that I'm way cooler than I actually am. And so you guys are just so awesome and gracious. We road tripped here with the family. And we got in Thursday night and Pace put us in the presidential suite, which is like, it's on the 14th floor. It's massive. We got all these rooms. You can see the city out. It's really cool. And when you're a kid, going in a hotel room like that, this big place here, that's just fascinating. So the kids are all running around and they're super excited. And Henry gathers them all around and she says, "Guys, look at how amazing this is. Do you guys realize that your dad has worked so hard to get invited to something like this and be a part of something this big and special?" And I was thinking, how in the world did Pace and Jamil let me into their world and invite me to be a part of their vision and become such great friends? And so I just feel so much gratitude. Thank you. So much gratitude. So I got to tell you guys, I got to tell the latest Norton adventure. We moved from Puerto Rico. We were there 4 years, and we bought a homestead in East Tennessee. This most incredible property. Yeah, just amazing property. This 9,000 square foot new construction house. Nobody's lived in this house. We can see the Smoky Mountains right out the windows. It's got barns, and it's got this cottage, and there's a pavilion. It's just this magical property that we bought. And imagine doing retreats here, guys. Who wants to do retreats at this party? Yeah, that's gonna be fun, right? Yeah, Pace is talking about it a little bit, and Jamil wants to come out. We want to do some stuff here. And we want to build a farm. And so in the month or so that we've been here, we've gotten chickens and rabbits. Yeah, we've gotten bunnies. And we've gotten quail, and we've gotten ducks, and we've got geese. And as we speak, I'm building barns, and I've got 3,000 feet of fence going in so we can have goats and sheep and cows and the whole thing. So we're really excited. One of my favorite parts is the lake. It's got a lake on the property. And check this out, guys. A little boathouse, which is now my office. Right? Check it out. Yeah. Now, I got to tell you, there's a fine line between working hard and hardly working. And I'm trying to find that balance there, right? So it's just a great thing. And some of you know that I have 10 kids. And we've expanded our family. Our oldest two are now married, and we're expecting our first grandchild. Yeah, isn't that exciting? Yeah. Now, I've got a whole list of names that I've been thinking about what to be called, as grandpa. And I got this whole list, and I really like Mimi and Pee-Pee. I think that'd be fun. But Jamil said, "Jerry, you're on a farm now. It should be Moo Moo and Poo Poo." So I don't know. We'll see if that sticks. But people ask me all the time, "Jerry, why do you have such a big family?" Well, God told Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So, we took that literally to multiply. And in Psalms it says, "A child is like an arrow in a warrior's hand, and happy is the man that has his quiver full," right? But I got to tell you, when we lived in Puerto Rico, we have a hotel there. Hope you guys come to my hotel sometime. It's awesome. It's in San Juan. And we have a hotel there, and to get to the hotel, you fly into the San Juan airport, and it's about a 10-minute drive to the hotel. And on the main drag, you cross this store. It's called Condom World. I've driven by this store 1,000 times. I've never been in this store. And what's funny is their logo is Protegiendo el Planeta, which translates to protecting the planet. So God says have children. Condom World says don't have children. I guess you get to make your own decision. By the way, Jamil said he would go in there and check it out for me and like tell me what's going on there. And so whenever I post online like a picture with my wife about my marriage, usually how irresistibly attractive she is to me, people leave these comments and they say, here comes number 11. Here comes number 11, right? Maybe you've done that. You made that joke. But guys, I can't. I am a vasectomy survivor. I kid you not. And I gotta tell you guys something really funny. This is somewhat inappropriate, but we've already crossed that line. Who was here when we did the calls with Jamil and Ingrid? Who was here? Okay. We're doing those calls, and I make this offer that's like over $200,000 less than the seller's asking price. Did you guys see that? And Jamil pointed out and he said, guys, that's really scary sometimes, isn't it, to make that offer really low? And he was kind of pointing out that that can be a scary, intimidating thing. And somebody in the front row, okay, she said, well, we know Jerry has big balls. Look at the size of his family. Now, nobody heard it except, right here. So Jamil repeats it to the whole audience. And then last night, I'm tucking the kids in, and kid number 8, he's 7, he says to me, Dad, why did Jamil say that the reason why you have a big family is because you have big balls? Thanks, Jamil. Appreciate that, Jamil. Thank you. Jamil's like the uncle that, your kids love to hang out with, but you're always scared about what he might say, We have this funny thing where Jamil sends me funny memes, and sometimes during bedtime when I'm supposed to be reading the kids a bedtime story, we watch his memes. And every now and then I'm like, oh, kids, we're not going to watch that one. But anyway, so Friday, Anne-Marie and I, we go with the VIPs to the Cowboy Stadium, the Dallas Cowboy Stadium, and it was incredible. We got to see the stadium, we got to walk on the field, and one of the things we did was we toured the cheerleaders' locker room. Yeah, which was interesting. And then we got a jersey. Everyone got a jersey with their name on it. So that night, we're getting ready for bed, and I put the jersey on, and I turned to Anne-Marie, and I say, so, I haven't seen you before. How long have you been a cheerleader? And she says, well, I'm new on the team. Do you mind showing me around? And I say, well, I am the captain of the team, so, it's the least I can do. But really, guys, I feel like I live an amazing life. I feel like I have the dream business, the dream family, the dream marriage. It's not without problems, but I got to tell you, I had this experience last summer at my lake house in Montana. Who's been to our lake house in Montana? Is that not incredible? I mean, the view with the lake and the mountain, it's just breathtaking. And I'm sitting here and I take this picture and I'm flooded with memories of my childhood and a very particular experience that happened to me. You see, I grew up in rural Michigan down a dirt road, cornfields. We heated the old farmhouse with a wood-burning stove until I graduated. My first time at a sit-down restaurant was Chili's, and it was at my older brother's graduation, and the only reason why we went there is because Grandma paid for it. I mean, my first time flying in an airplane was when I was an adult, and so Anne-Marie and I get married, and her dad decides to do this vacation for a week up in northern Michigan in Traverse City, and he rents a lake house, and he invites us to come along. So for a whole week, we're on this lake, and we're boating, and we're fishing, and we're doing the campfire, and it was just incredible. We're swimming every day, and it was just so fun. And at the end of that week, I sat down, and I wrote out a manifestation. I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but I wrote out in vivid detail, someday I'm going to have a lake house. And I described that there was going to be these wraparound decks, and they were going to be up high, and you're going to look down at the lake. And I described the emotions I would feel of the sun on my face and seeing the ripples in the water. And I brought in all the feeling and the emotion, and I said, someday I'm going to have that. And this picture right here is exactly what I wrote down 25 years earlier, and it manifested, right? And so that is powerful. Creating your dream life, it takes intention. You have to be very intentional about creating that. And heaven will, the stars will align, and you will move heaven and earth to get to that, because you're aligning with something that's important to you. And so I've learned over the years that money is a tool, but freedom is the real goal, isn't it? Money's the tool to get there. It's the vehicle to get there, but freedom is really what we're after. And to create that dream life, it's gonna take time, it's gonna take money, and it's gonna take guts. The thing is most of us lie to ourselves that we don't have the time. Who said that before? It's not true, because somebody with less time than you has done more than you, so it's not true that time is the thing. And money's not true either, that I don't have the money, because there are people that have done way more with no money, and so we know that that's not true. In fact, there are people in this room that if you had a phenomenal deal, they would give you the money for your deal. Is that true? Yeah, so time and money are not the thing. Guts, though, nobody can give you guts. Pace can create a community. He can give you all the resources and the training and the education. He can give you the money. He can give you everything. He can't give you guts, can he? To do the thing. And I think about this sometimes, but an entrepreneur is a lonely road. An entrepreneur is made alone for the most part. I mean, do you guys realize that nobody wakes up Pace at 4 a.m. and says, time to get up, Pace, and go conquer the world. He does that all on his own. And this is something that if you don't have, you've got to figure out how to develop that, create a strong enough vision so that the guts to get up every day and do the thing that needs to be done is so compelling that you don't need to get motivated. You don't need to get motivated. You're already motivated. Does that make sense? So I want to share with you how I got started in real estate 20 years ago. At the time, I was in underground construction for a utility company. I basically dug ditches. And I realized at the time that this was not going to cut it. I was underutilizing my talent. There was more I had to offer the world. There was more my family deserved. And so I was looking, I was open, I was ready to receive. And I had this experience where my older brother, Bob, he handed me like a 20-page ebook that he had printed out. And it was called How to Make Money in Real Estate Without Cash or Credit. And to me, it was like this ancient document that unlocked the secrets of the universe. You know, like that's how I think about it now anyway. And it was written by Steve Cook. I'm still friends with Steve. I do a lot of charity. He has a school in Guatemala, and I've gone with my kids, and we've built houses there. And he's an amazing guy, and I'm still friends with him today. But he wrote this ebook, and he basically described wholesaling. And all I really gathered out of this little ebook was, you know, go find a deal at a discount and then find somebody else that'll pay you more for it. That's really all I got. I mean, that's my level of understanding at the time. And so I sat down with Anne Marie and I said, look, I'm going to do this. And guess what she said? She said, oh, hell no. I mean, she had grown up in a family that her dad worked for the same company for 30 years. You know, you only ever own one house. And this idea of entrepreneurship was totally foreign. And I said, I have to try. I have to go for it because you and the kids deserve better. And so I started doing this thing called Driving for Dollars. I didn't know that's what it was at the time. I picked a little neighborhood in Detroit, right? And not a great neighborhood. And I drove down the street one day, and I drive past a house like this. This isn't the house, but it was a little house like this, and there was a for sale sign in the yard, so I get out, and I walk up to the house, and I see on the porch this sign that says, condemned. I had no idea what that meant. I look in the window, and it's like down to the studs. And there's a real estate sign in the yard by a real estate agent, so I call the sign. The realtor answers the phone. He says, I actually own that property. I'm a real estate agent, but I own that property, and I'd like to sell it. I say, okay, well, what's the price? He says, $12,000. And I think to myself, okay, what's my training? $2,000. I'll pay $2,000. And he says, $2,000? He's like, I'm asking $12,000. I said, well, did you know it's condemned? And he's like, oh, it is? Oh my God, you're kidding me. I'm like, yeah, there's a sign on the front porch right here. I'm looking at it. I have no idea what that means. And he says, I'll tell you what, let's make it 4 and we got a deal. So I said, okay, 4. And then there's this pause on the line and I go, now what do we do? And he says, when I get back to the office in an hour, I'm gonna fax you a contract. You sign that, fax it back to me. Who knows what a fax machine is? You guys know who's used a fax machine? Look how old, everyone look around. These are all the old people. It's all old. All of you are old. So so he says, I'll fax it to you in an hour. And then he says, and I'll open escrow. Make sure you have $4,000 in like 2 weeks. That's what he said to me. So I'm like, okay, great. I don't have $4,000. So I get in my car and I drive down to the end of the road. There's a stop sign. I turn left and I'm driving left down the road and I look out the window and I see these guys up on a roof fixing a roof. And I swear to you, clear as day, I hear an audible voice that says, stop the car. Okay? I stop the car. I get out of the car and I say to these guys up on the roof, I say, hey, I'm looking for the owner of this house. Can you guys help me out? Now, I think the idea here was there ain't any homeowners around here fixing roofs. This has got to be an investor. So this guy climbs down the ladder. He walks up to me. He's like 6'5" black guy. And I'm sure he's thinking to himself, what is this white kid doing out here, you know? And he says to me, I'm the owner. What do you want? Now, at the time, this guy owns hundreds of properties in town, multi-millionaire. I had no idea, right? He's up on the roof with his guys fixing the roof. He says, this is my crew. We're fixing the roof. I'm the owner. What do you want? And I said, well, I got a house for sale right around the corner. Might you be interested in it? And he says, let's take a look. And he walks around, gets in the passenger side of my car and in my little truck and sits there. So I'm thinking, okay. So I jump in, turn around, drive back, go right, pull up to the house. He gets out. He does the exact same thing I did. He walks up, looks at the condemned sign, looks in the window, says, how much do you want for it? So what did I say? Thinking my training. I said, $10,000. And he says, but it's condemned. I'm like, oh, shoot. Dang it. It's condemned. I said, okay, make it 8 and we got a deal. Now I'm just mirroring what the guy before me just did. So I said, make it 8 and we got a deal. He says, okay, done. Okay, now I have no idea what to do here. So, I'm just figuring this out, guys. I know nothing. So the story gets better. 2 weeks later, we go to closing. His name's Leroy. Leroy shows up. I went on to do dozens of deals with this guy. He ended up becoming a great mentor to me and was just a really cool guy. He shows up at closing with cash. Not a cashier's check, cash. So I walk out of there with $4,000 in like hundreds and fifties for this deal, my first deal. And so here's what I did. I go home. I wait till Anne-Marie's not home, and I go home. You guys heard the story? And I take sticky notes, and I put money like all over the house with a sticky note that says, thank you for believing in me. I couldn't do this. I couldn't have done this without you. I love you so much. Yeah, all over. And then I'm laying on the bed like this with money all over me. Naked, no. And she comes home, and I say to her, I sit her down, and I say, we're going to put all this money in a big jar, and this money is only for babysitting, because we started having like a bunch of kids. I said, this is only for babysitting, and we're going to go on date night every week because you're important to me. Yeah. Thank you. And so that's what we did. So as we entered on this journey of real estate and building this business, I haven't gotten it always right, but we've tried to make that stay a priority, is our marriage and our relationship. And so there's a couple things I want to glean from that deal, from that experience I had. One of them was I had to learn how to disassociate time for money and build a new mindset around results for money. You guys see the difference? Because I made $4,000 knowing absolutely nothing in about 10 minutes of effort, right? So there really is no distinction between time and money. It's really results and money, isn't it? Now, how many of you here in this room want to make more money? Raise your hands. Everybody raise your hands. You want to make more money. If you want to make more money, here's how you do it. You solve more problems or bigger problems, and you bring more value because you get paid in direct proportion to the value you provide. That's how it works, isn't it? Yes. The second lesson I learned was to take imperfect action. Because we tend to tell ourselves, I need to know a little bit more. I need to watch one more of Jerry's YouTube videos, right? I need to get on one more 4-hour Zoom with Pace, and then I'll know enough, right? Isn't that what we tell ourselves? Yeah. But the thing is you know enough right now, everybody in this room, to start. Now, that's enough to start. It's not knowing very much is not enough to build a business, but it's enough to start. And starting has to happen before you can build anything. So I want to really encourage you guys, imperfect action is always better than perfect inaction. Take that imperfect action. I talk to so many people in the hall and they're like, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm learning this and I'm learning that. And it's all learning, and that's all exciting and it's fun and there's this honeymoon phase when we learn new things. But nothing happens until we make that step and we take that action. And you don't need to know more than what you know right now to start, okay? Everybody believe that? You have to, when you accept that, your life will change completely. Now, I do want to give some very practical tips here, some things that are very important to build a business. Now, I think in 2025, everybody in this room, all of us, we have a lot stacked up against us. It's a very sophisticated market right now in real estate investing, very sophisticated. I started a software a couple years ago called PropWire. It's now the second largest data software next to PropStream. And I can go into Indianapolis, I can pull a list of absentee owners that live out of state, that have owned the property for 10 years, that's vacant with high equity, and I can give you that list in a nanosecond. Data is now a commodity, isn't it? The information now is more sophisticated than it's ever been. You guys that are part of Sub2 community, for example, you have the most advanced, well-taught training that's ever existed in humankind. It's not the information, it's not the data. That's because it's so sophisticated now. There used to be a paywall to that, or there used to be a barrier to access that, and now it's readily available. It's at everyone's fingertips, which means competition is fierce. There's somebody in your market right now that's got a better team, better sales processes, better systems, and more money, and can outspend you, and that's in every single market across the country, okay? It's competitive. And I think the sleeping giant is regulation. Now, I talk about this ad nauseum on my YouTube channel and in my training because I think it's the sleepy giant that we all need to pay a whole lot more attention to, and we need to take an active role in getting and participating in taking a stance in what we stand for as real estate investors. And this is not just a wholesaling thing. This is a sub-2 thing they're coming after. Wholesaling's under attack, sub-2 is under attack, seller finance is under attack. Really, real estate investing as a whole generally is under attack. And why is that? There's this narrative out there that a distressed seller is a protected class. And what I mean by that is that a distressed seller is unable to make sound decisions about selling their property, and you, the investor, are taking advantage of them and stealing their equity. Has anybody heard this thought, this idea? It's complete nonsense. It's absolutely not true at all. I mean, if someone was capable enough to buy a house, do you think they're capable enough of selling a house? Do you think they know their options? I've never once dealt with a seller in 20 years that did not know their options. They did not know that they could hire a real estate agent. They did not know how to look at Zillow to get value. They didn't know they had options. Now, are there isolated incidences? Of course there are. There's people that are not of sound mind, but that's an isolated example, not the general rule. And so they're coming, and they're coming for us. And the National Association of Realtors and the consumer protection agencies and the regulatory bodies and the ambulance chasers, they're all coming for us. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a second, but I want to share with you what I believe, and you can take this for what it's worth. It's just my personal belief. I think there are 3 things that everybody in this room is going to need to adapt and do if you want to thrive in your real estate business. And the first one is what I call get all the meat on the bone. And what I mean by that is You have to become direct to deals. You have to become an acquisition company. You have to. Because if you are direct to the deals, then you have all the options. And you have to have all the options today. I look at real estate like baseball. A deal comes in, and it's either a single, double, triple, home run, or grand slam. Now, each and every one of you have to define what that looks like for you. I have my own definition of what a single is and what a grand slam is. Deal comes in. Now that I have choices because I control the deal flow, right? I'm an acquisition company. I control the deal flow. I'm not relying on anybody. I get to decide to keep the home runs and the grand slams. And what do I do with the singles, doubles, and triples? Throw them away? I wholesale them. And I get paid for them because my single is somebody else's what? Home run. Yeah. Someone else will take that skinny deal. I don't want that deal. So I wholesale it. That brings in monthly revenue. It's fantastic. And it gives me all the options to cherry pick the very best deals. Don't settle. You should only be doing, and by the way, I'm not talking about, you don't have to keep all these things. You know, you don't have to own the thing. You can if you want. And I don't care what your strategy is. You can do co-living like Jamil just talked about. You can do RV parks or rentals or whatever it is. It doesn't matter the thing. The exit strategy doesn't matter. What matters is when you understand that real estate is about control, not ownership. Now you can own it, but it's not about the ownership. It's about the control. I have 250 acres in Pigeon Forge out by where we live that I control. I don't own. I control it with an instrument called an option to purchase. And I have that option for $4.9 million. It's worth 3 times that much money. And I don't own it, but I control it. Okay, real estate is about control. What do you think subject to really is? It's control. You're controlling the debt, isn't it? Yeah. So learning that principle is powerful. Second principle here is you need to become Cheesecake Factory. Now, when we lived in Puerto Rico, we would go on date night every week, and we would go to Cheesecake Factory. It's my wife's favorite place. Who's been to Cheesecake Factory? Now, how big is the menu? It's like half an inch thick. There's something for everybody. You could go there every single day and rotate through and have something different to eat all the time, right? And so what I mean by become Cheesecake Factory is what I really mean by that is you need to know how to do all the strategies to really maximize your deal flow. Deals come in and you need to understand the seller's problem, what their solution is, and to provide that solution. I put together a quick graph here to just sort of illustrate this. There's a direct correlation between level of motivation and price, isn't there? And the higher the motivation, the what with price? The lower the price. And likewise, the lower the motivation, the what? Higher the price. So if you understand that, and you understand that I've spent the money, I've done the marketing, I'm on the phone or I'm on the appointment, I'm talking to the seller, they have a problem. My job is to find the problem and provide the solution. And really you have low cash. By the way, did you guys see yesterday that with Ingrid's call, what did she offer that seller? Creative finance. She even said, oh, you asked, he first said 515, then he said I could probably go down to 5. Did you guys hear what Ingrid said? Oh no, I'll pay you 515. Right? Because she's going for the creative method because in her mind, she felt like that was the right solution for his problem. On my call, what did I do? I went for the low cash because I felt like what he was saying was this thing needs a ton of work. We want to liquidate it. There's family. Everybody's going to want their piece of the money. And so what did I do? I went to the low cash offer. I'll even list properties. I believe you should have an active real estate license in your real estate business. And when someone wants retail, what do? Throw that lead away? We don't. We say, well, you know what? It sounds like what you want is retail. Why don't we list this property for you for a 3% commission? Now I'm maximizing every lead that comes in the door. Now, if you're new, I want to caution you about this because you can't do all things, right? I see too many people doing that. Learn one thing, which I recommend start with low cash. It's the easiest thing to learn. You got to figure out value and repairs. That's it. And you can get to your number. Creative, there's like 10 things to every deal that make it a good deal or not a good deal. So it's a little bit more to it, you know? So pick the thing, learn it well, go deep. But the goal should be that you have a solution for that seller. Everybody with me? Okay. Next is you have to have a servant heart. Now, I know that sounds cliche, so hear me out before you're like, oh my gosh, of course, Jerry, we have to treat people with respect and all that. That's not what I mean. I mean that, but that's not where I'm going with this. Today, because of competition, this idea of like a one-call close on the phone. I mean, who doesn't want that? I want that. That sounds dreamy. I talk to them once, send the contract. Great, we're done. That's not how it's going to work anymore. Why? Because they have 5 contracts on the table right now, and you're the 6th one. Why? Because everybody has the same data. Right? So you have to assume every seller you talk to is talking to another investor like you. So how do you differentiate? You have to go above and beyond to serve that person. I'm going to tell you a quick story here because I'm out of time. This is a deal we closed on Friday. The wire is going to hit Monday. This is, it's in North Carolina. This is my partner Jordan with the seller Diane. Now, we nurtured this relationship for 6 months from initial contact. We went on physical appointment 6 times, 6 different times. On one of the appointments, she said that her grandson is into video games and PS3. Jordan went back on another appointment and brought some old PS3 games and said, hey, I thought your grandson would like this. We released earnest money before closing. We got her an apartment. We had the U-Haul. The second picture here is at the storage unit. We put some of her stuff in storage. She said, I do not want to hire a real estate agent. I don't want anybody coming in my house. And all my belongings that I can't keep with me, she's elderly and can't take care of the house. She's like, they have to go to somebody. You cannot throw my stuff away. So we found a place for all her stuff, right? Serve. And we wholesaled it for $30,000. Okay, but we're willing to do the relationship. We're willing to do that work to build that connection, and you're gonna have to do that if you're gonna survive. You have to do that, and it has to be, you can't fake this. This has to be genuine. You have to really honestly care for that person to trust you, to decide to work with you. And what I found is price doesn't matter anymore. Like, we're not the cheapest guy, but we can build that trust and confidence better than anyone else. So, I'm totally out of time. Are you guys okay if I go maybe 5 more minutes? Because I want to talk about, thank you. I want to talk about some things that are very, very important. I'll try to go through this quickly. And this is regarding regulation. We have to raise the bar. Guys, no more one-sided contracts. What's a one-sided contract? All in your favor, none in their favor. You can't have contingencies all the way till closing. That looks really bad. This is called mutuality of obligation, and they're coming for it. The regulators are coming for this. Make your contracts fair. If you have an inspection contingency, make it reasonable. Make it 5 days, 7 days or something. Don't make it all the way to closing. What's that look like in front of a judge? Right, it does. Okay, no more low or no earnest money. Don't do $10 or $100 or no earnest money. That looks really bad. Earnest money is the seller's insurance that you're a legit buyer, isn't it? It needs to be a minimum of $500. Now, we go way over that. We go $5,000 or more, right? So you got to start doing earnest money. No more misrepresentations. You got to be really careful about that. Don't say, my intent is for you to stay in the home if you're talking to pre-foreclosure, if your intent is to buy the house. That's misrepresenting. Don't say I'm an all-cash buyer if you've never actually bought a house all cash. Words matter. And what they're doing with intent, here's what they're doing. Here's what the law is doing. They're looking at intent as, do you have a history of it? So if you say, we help people stay in their homes from foreclosure, and you've never actually helped somebody stay in their home from foreclosure, then your intent was not to do that. That was misrepresenting. Okay? So intent also is, do you have the ability? If you say, I'll buy your house for $100,000, do you have the cash to buy it for $100,000, or do you have the lenders backing you to buy it for $100,000? And can you show that? That's what we're talking about with misrepresentations. Fourth one is lack of disclosure. I mean, they've been hammering this one like crazy. You have to disclose. The seller needs to know all of their options and exactly what you're doing before they sign that contract, or it's going to come back on you. Okay, and they're coming for this. The Attorney General in Arizona said, we are coming for you. That's what he said. And clouding title. Now, I know this is taught. I used to do this quite a bit. We got to stop doing this. Stop clouding title. There isn't a story you can come up with when the news shows up in the front lawn that you block that seller from selling it to anybody else. I know you have a good reason why. You don't want to get backdoored and all of that. Stop doing that. It looks really bad on our industry when you do that. Now, I found that if you do a really good job setting expectations, building trust, communicating, sellers don't backdoor you. If you have a backdoor problem, it's because you're doing a poor job with that seller. Okay? So stop clouding title. That's a big one they're coming after. And honestly, guys, here, just in closing, because I'm out of time. Honestly, in closing here, we need to be the light to the industry. Now, I know those of you that run with Pace, he has a very high expectation. I do too. I know Jamil does too. We have to separate ourselves from the rest of the industry, and we have to be that beacon on the hill. We have to represent what we really stand for as an industry. And that's everybody wins. Isn't that true commerce? Isn't that really a capitalist? I give you something of value, you give me something, there's an exchange here. Everybody has to win in the transactions, and we have to be that example if we want to be in this industry for very long. If you want your kids to be in this industry, we have to rise to the occasion and be that example. Thank you, everybody. Love you so much. All right, thank you.
I love you, brother.
Love you too. Jerry Norton.